Hello, my dear friends, how are you? Happiness, happiness, and happiness. Whatever a human being is doing, or whatever somebody is trying to do, whatever somebody is planning to do, all of that has one purpose behind it. And that one purpose is happiness, directly or indirectly. Indirectly mean that somebody wants their offspring to become highly educated, competent, well placed in the society. It means it is an indirect purpose is happiness. Apparently they say I'm doing it for them, yes, but what will you get out of it? Happiness. Somebody is kind enough, somebody is generous enough, somebody is a philanthropist, somebody is doing one thing or the other thing, all of that behind it have one purpose, and that one purpose is the purpose of happiness. So, happiness is that much important in our life. Indeed, it is the purpose of life, and for that reason, we have made it a topic of our discussion today how to become a happy person, what are the ingredients of it, and what are the factors influencing it, and in short looking upon it from every angle. So that is the happiness. So my dear friends and fellows, let's talk about happiness. And it is, what is happiness? Happiness is a positive emotional state. Happiness is a positive emotional state characterized by feelings of joy, by feelings of contentment, and by feelings of satisfaction. So, that is a definition of happiness. Now, there are certain theories about happiness, and three of these theories have become a bit popular. And let's talk about each one of these three theories. Number one, it is the hedonic theory. Hedonic theory says happiness comes from experiencing pleasure and avoiding pain. That is the hedonic theory about happiness. And then it is the eudaimonic theory, and it says happiness comes from living a meaningful and a purposeful life. And I like this definition. You need to tell me what is your favorite definition of the happiness, what is your favorite theory of the happiness. Now the third theory of the happiness is the self determination, and it says that happiness comes from fulfilling basic psychological needs. Happiness comes from fulfilling basic psychological needs like autonomy, like competence, like relationships. So these are the three popular theories of happiness. My favorite theory is the second one, which says that happiness comes from living a meaningful and a purposeful life. Now these are the three theories. Now let's talk about certain key factors influencing happiness. There are certain key factors influencing happiness, and these are also three in number. The first one is, what is the role of genetics in your happiness? And the science says that from somewhere between 30 to 50%, it is the genetic rule of happiness. It is the 30 to 50% of happiness is influenced by the genetics. And mean our parents, our ancestors, and our parents, our grandparents, to what extent they were happy, and if at all they were happy, definitely it will be having impact upon our life as well. Now the second key factor influencing our happiness level, it is the life circumstances. Life circumstances and to the surprise of many people, to the surprise of many people, barely 10 to 20% of happiness is influenced by life circumstances. Barely 10 to 20% of the happiness is influenced by life circumstances, like our income, like our relationships, like our happiness, like our health actually. Although maximum number of the people believe that it is the circumstances which makes you either happy or unhappy, while it is barely 10 to 20%. Scientific research says. And now the third one, the third key factor influencing our happiness level, it is the intentional activities, intentional activities, and 40 to 50% of the happiness, 40 to 50% of the happiness is influenced by intentional activities. 40 to 50% of the happiness is influenced by intentional activities. Now, what are the intentional activities? It is like, you know, practicing gratitude, practicing gratitude, not stop regretting, stop criticizing, stop claiming, minimize your complaints, minimize your criticism, and minimize your regrets as well. Now what is needed is that be grateful, practice the gratitude, not only about the major thing, even the minor thing, even the smaller thing. Be grateful and it will make you happy. Now the second, intentional activity for the purpose of making us happy, it is the mindfulness. And mindfulness means focus on the present moment without judgment. Now the third key factor is the kindness. The more kind-hearted you are, the happier you will become automatically. So there are three top level, factors influencing our happiness, making us happy. Gratitude on the one hand, not only about the bigger things only, but even about the smaller things. And it is then the mindfulness. The third is the kindness. Now it is the science of happiness, and there are four things to understand. First of all, it is the neuroplasticity, and it says our brains can rewire. Our brains can rewire and adapt to new circumstances. Our brains can rewire and can adapt to the new circumstances as well. So that is called neuroplasticity. Plasticity. Now the second is dopamine. Dopamine. And dopamine says dopamine is released in response to the player, in response to the reward, and in response to the novelty as well. Now the third point in the science of happiness is it is the endorphins. And endorphins is released in response to the exercise, in response to the laughter, and in response to the social connection. And endorphins released in response to the exercise, in response to the laughter, in response to the social connection. Now the fourth item in the science of happiness says that it is the oxytocin. Oxytocin. Oxytocin is released in response to the social bonding and in response to the attachment as well. Oxytocin is released in response to social building and in response to the attachment as well. So these are the 4 points of the science of happiness. Now there are a very important segment. It says practical strategies for increasing happiness. Practical strategies for increasing happiness. Earlier we spoke about the different aspects of the happiness. Now we are going to talk about the practical strategies for increasing the happiness, and these are five practical strategies. Each one of these is very important indeed, and it should be chiseled upon our brain, so that we become a best practitioners of each one of these five, excuse me, because these are highly beneficial. The first one is the gratitude practice. The first one is the gratitude practice, and it is like reflect on things, reflect on those things, reflect on those things you are thankful for each day, and find at least three of these, five of these, seven of these. The more the better, the more the better. And it is the gratitude practice, and reflecting on the three things you are thankful for each day. And now the second practical strategy for increasing the level of happiness, it is the mindfulness and the meditation. How can we do that? Mindfulness and the meditation. Meditation is known by the many people. And what is the mindfulness? It is the focus on the present moment, focus on the present moment, but without judgment. Although each one of us have a future, and usually there are lots of regrets about the future. Some of the people are seen, living in the dwelling in the past. Do not dwell in the past at all. Whatever mistakes, whatever missed opportunities we have done, simply learn the lesson out of all that and let it go. Do not cry over the spilt milk at all. And now all of us have a future as well. Do not keep worrying about the future at all. Neither to dwell in the past, not to live in the future, but to focus on the present moment, and that too without judgment. This thing is called mindfulness meditation. Now, the third practical strategy for keeping ourselves happy, and it is the acts of kindness. Acts of kindness, and it is engage in the small acts of kindness, such as holding the door to someone. Whatever small activities you want to do, you can do. I think it must be done not because it is beneficial for others only, rather because it makes us a happy person. It is one of the five important factors which keeps us happy, and it is the acts of kindness. Now, the fourth item, that is actually physical activity. Physical activity, and it is engage in the regular exercise. Engaging in the regular exercise, such as walking, such as brisk walking, such as jogging, running, yoga, aerobics, weightlifting, gym, athletics, sports, whatever you can do. And the most common of all these, that is the walking. Walk at least, if at all it is the low intensity exercise, then it is 1 hour. But if at all it is the moderate intensity exercise, even 30 minutes a day is enough, and at least it is minimum it is needed. And now it is the fifth and the last, practical strategy for making us happy, for keeping us happy. It is the social connection, and nurture relationships with the friends, nurture relationship with the family as well. So these are, social connection. So five strategies for increasing the level of happiness in ourselves. Each one of these is very important. But if at all we are trying to do all five of these, and that too in a good way, it means that we will be inshallah. And now it is the measuring happiness. How can we measure the happiness? It is the subjective well-being, self-reported measures of happiness and life satisfaction. That is the one thing. Positive emotions, like measures of positive emotions, such as joy, such as contentment. Third and last, it is the psychological well-being. It is the measures of psychological well-being, such as autonomy, such as competence, such as autonomy and competence. It is the by understanding the science of happiness and incorporating practical strategies into your daily life, into the daily life, we can increase our overall happiness, we can increase our well-being as well. So that is all from me today. Thank you very much. It is a highly important subject because all of us want to become happy. Nobody want to live an unhappy life at all. So happiness, it is totally or up to great extent, it is our grasp. We can do that. Don't, it is not dependent upon the circumstances. Many people erroneously believe that it is dependent upon the other people. As a matter of fact, it is not. And that is all from me today. Thank you very much.